Round two in the legal battle between the Justice Department and former FBI Director James Comey. Have you heard about this one? The DOJ filed new charges against Mr. Comey, and this time it is about a photo that Mr. Comey posted and then deleted online. You see what it says right there? The DOJ says this amounts to a threat against the life of President Donald Trump. 86 can refer to getting rid of something, and Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Here's acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche on CBS Mornings.
If anybody in this country thinks, especially what happened over the past couple of years with respect to President Trump, that it is okay for anybody to threaten the President of the United States, that it is okay to threaten the President of the United States and then have the media or others say, well, that's not serious, then we have a bigger problem than I even imagined in this country. Of course it's serious when you threaten the President of the United States, and anybody that tries to put forward some narrative that this is just about seashells or something to the contrary is missing the point. You cannot threaten the President of the United States.
So let's go live to CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman on this headline. Katrina, the first time Comey faced an indictment, it went down in flames. How strong is this new case?
Reed, I would say that this seems like a rather flimsy case. If the Justice Department is trying to base all of this alleged threat on just seashells, then it is very likely that we could see it fall apart or get dismissed by a judge. There is a very high bar when it comes to threats based on language. There's a high First Amendment protection here, and something has to rise to the level of what's known as a true threat. So they'll have to show that Comey knew that he was in fact making this violent threat against the president and had intent to actually commit that. Under the language of the charges as well, a reasonable person seeing this post of these seashells in the formation of 8647 also would have needed to understand that that's what the message was supposed to mean. There's a lot of ambiguity about what these numbers even mean. 86 is slang for getting rid of something. In the restaurant industry, it means something's been taken off the menu. They're saying that it meant that it was intended to kill number 47, which is Trump as the president, the 47th president of the United States. But there are really big First Amendment barriers here. We could also see the potential for James Comey to, similarly to the other case, try to get this dismissed on the basis of selective or vindictive prosecution.
But he is the former FBI director, and yes, there are different interpretations to 86, as you wisely cite, but he did have enormous power, did have enormous know-how within the structure of the law, and especially as it relates to criminal. Will that come into play, his knowledge as the former FBI director of what 86 also could mean?
I think that they'll have to prove that he had an understanding of what it meant. What James Comey has said is that when he allegedly found these shells on the beach and took this photo, posted it while on vacation, that he thought it was a political message, but he says that he didn't know it would be perceived as a threatening message. He did take the post down, and at the time, about a year ago, Reed, he spoke with the Secret Service. He said that he was not trying to threaten the president's life. The matter seemed to be dealt with for the moment, but now we're seeing it rise back up again. The Department of Justice will have to prove this, though, that he had that knowledge of the meaning of this message and that was, in fact, his intent when he put it online.
Okay, so let's turn to another big headline-grabbing case, the investigation into the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. We're learning more about how things unfolded. What can you tell us?
So there's been a new filing, and it has some details that we're learning about his journey to get to Washington, D.C., as well as the timeline of what unfolded that night. So he took this train from Los Angeles to Chicago, Chicago to D.C. Apparently, he was also running notes in some kind of journal along the way, observations about all of the places that he passed, Reed. So he called Pennsylvania. He said, the woods are awesome, looks like vast fairylands filled with tiny trickling creeks. But the most interesting thing we saw was imagery and details about the timeline of the night of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There's this selfie photo that Cole Allen took in his hotel room, and he has these various weapons on him. So they say that he appeared to be wearing a small leather bag that was consistent in appearance with an ammunition-filled bag, which they later recovered from him at the scene. They say there was a shoulder holster with a sheathed knife, also pliers and wire cutters. And leading up to the moment when he allegedly rushed, trying to get into the ballroom, he was checking websites, looking at the president's schedule. It was called the Presidential Schedule Civic Tracker that he was looking at. He also checked multiple media websites, looking at some coverage of when the president was arriving at the hotel, when he was getting on stage. So we're starting to see more of a minute-by-minute timeline unfold of what led up to when that moment was where we saw him rush the magnetometers and ultimately get taken down by Secret Service. There was also that timed message that was allegedly sent out to family and friends, what's being referred to as a manifesto, that was right before around 8:30, which is when he went down the steps to the ballroom.
Katrina Kaufman on both of those developing stories. Thank you so much. Good to see you, friend.